Okay, y'all. So I this will be part two. No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that because I was gonna do a part two from my last live, but I'm not gonna do that. But hello, 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 hello. We're going to go ahead and get into this next content that I want to share with you all. It's about a teacher um, that actually sent the student home, you know, inappropriately for no reason. So we're gonna see exactly what this is about. I'm gonna get this started real quick. No, actually, because I will edit this. It's not a problem. But what I do want to go back into, because I did say that I'm going to bring back up the last live that I did with Miss Mercedes. So I'm gonna, hey Rodro baby, hey baby. I'm gonna bring back up Miss Mercedes situation, and we're gonna go from there. And then I will go into a whole total different, segment from that. Hey Reed, hello, 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 hello. Y'all didn't make it to. I don't know. Did y'all get a chance to replay the last live that I did? If not, I will replay the last live that I did so y'all can get an understanding about it. let me know in the chat. It's so good to see y'all. I'm just gonna have to just pretty much just rename everything when I get done with the live. Read. It's so good to see you, boo. I don't see you in so many people chat, so baby, look, I'm honored. I am honored to see you because, baby, you've been within a lot of, within the whole saga and all kind of stuff, but I do not see you in a lot of things and a lot of people chats. Not that I actually be looking like that, but at the end of the day, it's just the whole fact that I'm grateful that you are here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Tony. While I was saying, I watched 5 minutes of it and then I went over on Facebook, follow up on the pastor. Go ahead and replay. Okay, great. Okay. I'm gonna replay it later. You don't have to read because I'll do it right here for you, baby. I'll do it right here for you. We could replay it and then I'm gonna show y'all the update that I actually did my research on from after I played that, because at the end of the day, when I played that live, it was a random live. It literally was a random live. So I didn't know what to expect or what to do, or at that point, at that moment. So I just took it for what it was, and then once I listened to it with everybody else that came up in that particular live, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna come back and bring some info to y'all. So I got the info, and that's what it is. Hey, Mama Three. Hey, my sissy. Hey, my Bookie Poo. Thank you for joining. So we gonna get back into here. Let me let me go back and pull this live up, and then we gonna go from there. Let me pull this live back up. Well, this video back up at the end of the day. How y'all day been going? How y'all weekend starting off? Let me know what's going on. What's up with y'all? What's up with y'all? Y'all out here just being cute, or what's going on? What is going on with y'all, chat? Y'all give me a second because I'm on a different screen right now. So if I don't see y'all comments really quickly, it's because I'm on a different screen. Don't mean I'm ignoring you, boy. Oh Lord, it took me back to my content. Okay, it's fine. I can do that. Give me just a sec. I'm still here, y'all. Shit. Don't give me a minute. Hey, okay, I know that's right. Worked out and being a mom. Absolutely. And that's a full-time job, period. Mama three, period. Reed say every day is my weekend. I'm retired, child. I know that's right. How your retirement going, babes? What you say they been going great. We might slide to hookah lounge later in 5 days. And in 5 days, we taking the kids to Orlando for a spring break vacation. Awesome. That is awesome, Raw Truth. Absolutely. That is awesome. Child, just add me in. I ain't gotta be there. Just add me in. Shit. Just say in regards. Baby. Shoot. My vacation day is coming up. It is coming up. I've been building up my vacation days for the past 3 months. For the past 3 months, I've been building up my vacation days. So, baby, it's coming. It is coming real soon. And I got a week worth. Hmm, I got a week worth. I can get more if I want to, but I just choose not to. But I got a week worth that I want to, but I'm gonna wait. That's for a fact. I'm gonna wait. Why is this doing this stuff like this? Let me hold on, y'all. Give me a sec. Give me a second, cause it's doing a whole freaking most. Say we're jealous. We no, don't. We. I know, right? Right. Take us. Take us. Shit. Raw truth. Take us. Don't be sitting up here. Don't do us like that. Take us hell. Shit. Don't be all Reed say don't. Okay, hold on, y'all. It's trying to store it. This is not what I want to share. So no, this is not what it is. I gotta hurry up because at the end of the day, it's too much shit going on. Shit, we got too many lives going on, child. We got too many lives going on. I'm trying to go ahead and get my little live up in here or whatever. And, everybody can go ahead and do what they do, child. Because, baby, my lives ain't nearly as like everybody else's. So, y'all, please be patient with me. Here we go. It's coming. And then I got the information that I wanted to get or whatever, as far as a conclusion of this live. I don't know why I keep coming. Why I keep doing that? That's weird. It keep going back to my live, y'all. That shit weird. I'm still here, y'all. Okay, so, so did y'all see my last live? Let me know if y'all seen my last live. Put some up in the chat and let me know. Yes or no if y'all seen my last live. If y'all see my last live, let me know because that's what I'm trying to pull up right now. And it's giving me a hard time to pull it back up again. And I'm trying to get this out the way so, you know, folks can go ahead and, get their little lives together and do whatever they gonna do. Let me know. No, that's what I was gonna replay. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, here we go. It's coming right now. It's 25 minutes, chat. 25 minutes. There's some change. 25 minutes. 25 minutes. So let me share my screen and we finna go there. We going all the way there. And then I already did some research, a little small research on what it is.
Being in the spotlight. Millions knew her name. Her image was instantly recognizable, and her life played out for the world to see. To some, she was an inspiration. To others, an object of admiration or envy. But no one truly knew her. No one saw what was hidden behind the perfect picture. Mercedes Moore lived in a world where fame brought opportunities, but also risks. Among her followers were not just fans, but those who believed they had a right to her attention. One of them was convinced he knew her better than anyone. One of them decided their meeting was inevitable. Now her phone was silent. Messages remained unread. From the outside, everything looked the same, but inside, a nightmare was unfolding. Janai Gagnier was born in 1987 in Los Angeles to Mark and Janetta Gagnier. Her parents were known for their discipline and structure, traits shaped by their military background. They met while serving in the armed forces, but after getting married, they decided to leave that life behind and focus on building a business. Their ultimate goal was to open a restaurant, which later became their life's work. Janai was the eldest child, and in time, she became the older sister to two younger girls. She maintained a warm and trusting relationship with them. Her parents raised their daughters in an environment of discipline, but without excessive strictness. They instilled a sense of responsibility, while also encouraging independence and initiative. This approach shaped Janae's entrepreneurial mindset from a young age. From early childhood, she was energetic, curious, and had an easy way with people. Her outgoing nature kept her in the center of attention, and her natural charm and confidence made her popular among her peers. She was persistent. Once she set her mind on something, she wouldn't stop until she achieved it. At 12, Janae found a way to earn her own money. She set up a small makeshift studio for braiding hair in the garage of her family's home. At first, her clients were just friends and classmates, but soon word spread through the neighborhood. Before long, women lined up in the evenings, eager to get her signature braids. This small business gave Janae her first taste of financial independence, but her carefree childhood came to an abrupt end when she turned 14. Her parents decided to separate, and the divorce was anything but smooth. Conflicts and arguments followed, leaving a lasting impact on Janae. In the end, her father moved to Texas, a decision that shook her to her core. She remained in Los Angeles with her mother and sisters, but now her life was split between two worlds. Part of her time was spent with her mother, the other with her father, regularly traveling back and forth between states. This period had a profound impact on her personality. She became more short-tempered, withdrawn, and sharp in her responses. Her school performance declined, and tensions with her mother escalated. To her parents, it seemed like typical teenage rebellion, but in reality, Janae was struggling to cope with the breakdown of her family. Over time, the strain in her relationship with her parents began to ease. As she grew older, Janae was able to accept the situation and establish a new dynamic with both her mother and father. Gradually, she regained her balance, rekindled her energetic spirit, and once again earned the respect and admiration of those around her. By the time she graduated high school, Janae was determined to be successful in life, though she hadn't yet figured out exactly how. She completed her education with solid grades and enrolled in college, planning to pursue a career in dentistry. But fate had something else in store for her. After high school, Janae entered college with the goal of becoming a dental assistant. At the time, she saw it as a stable and reliable career path that would allow her to support herself and build a secure future. However, just a few months into her studies, she realized it wasn't the right fit. The coursework felt dry and uninspiring, and the idea of working in the field long-term no longer seemed appealing. Ultimately, Janae made a difficult decision. She dropped out of college despite her parents' objections. Her choice came as a shock to them. They had hoped their eldest daughter would follow a traditional career path, securing stability and success in a conventional way. It was during this time that Janae met a young man, and their relationship progressed quickly. He suggested they move to Las Vegas, assuring her that the city offered more opportunities for them to build an independent life and achieve financial freedom. Excited by the prospect of a fresh start, she agreed. Relocating to a new city turned out to be a major challenge. Las Vegas, a place that never sleeps, was filled with possibilities, but also demanded financial security and a clear survival strategy. Without a degree or work experience, finding a reliable source of income was no easy task. Janae explored different options, but most offered low pay and grueling hours with little room for advancement. One day, through acquaintances, she learned about an opportunity to work at a nightclub. What caught her attention was the potential to earn significantly more than in traditional jobs that didn't require a college degree. Despite her initial doubts and hesitations, her difficult financial situation pushed Janae to give it a try. Her first few shifts weren't easy. She wasn't sure if this line of work suited her, and she felt uncomfortable and uncertain. However, she quickly realized that her earnings outweighed her concerns. On average, she was making around $5,000 a week, enough to cover rent, enjoy a comfortable lifestyle, and even start saving. Over time, her perspective on the industry shifted. What had initially seemed like a temporary solution gradually became an intentional career move. She started to see that working in the entertainment industry wasn't just about making money. It was also a way to build valuable connections. Many club patrons were wealthy individuals, celebrities from the music and sports industries, and successful entrepreneurs. Janae observed how other women in her field used their work as a stepping stone to bigger opportunities. However, her family reacted negatively to her decision. When her parents found out what she was doing, it caused tension and disappointment. They couldn't accept the fact that Janae had turned away from a traditional career path in favor of a profession they viewed as questionable. Disagreements on the topic led to frequent conflicts, straining their relationship. Her family tried to convince her to return to a more stable and socially accepted career, but Janae stood by her decision. She emphasized that she was making a conscious choice, was happy with her life, and was earning well, but that wasn't enough for her parents. In their eyes, their daughter had given up a promising future in favor of an easy but unrespected source of income. Over time, the pressure from her family lessened. They realized that Janae was firm in her choices and had no intention of changing her lifestyle. However, the gap in how they viewed her career remained unresolved. For Janae, this period was a turning point. She had gained financial independence and confidence in herself, allowing her to shape her future on her own terms. Now, she had access to opportunities she never had before, marking the beginning of her rise to broader recognition. While working in the entertainment industry, Janae understood that in order to advance, she needed to create a striking and memorable image. It was during this time that she came up with the stage name Mercedes Moore. The new name had to sound bold, command attention, and set her apart from others. The experience she gained in her early nightclub jobs helped her develop a strategy for building her personal brand. She focused on working in venues that attracted a wealthier clientele, where the pay was higher and the networking opportunities were greater. Gradually, she began receiving invitations to exclusive establishments in Las Vegas. These high-end clubs were known for their elite atmosphere, often frequented by well-known public figures. Working in these exclusive venues opened new doors for Janae. She started meeting wealthy and influential people and soon received invitations to private events. Over time, her social circle expanded to include well-known public figures. These connections helped her realize that she could use her appearance, lifestyle, and network to attract a larger audience. She saw the potential of social media as a tool for self-promotion and personal branding. Janae began actively growing her online presence, focusing primarily on Instagram, while also utilizing Snapchat and Twitter. Instagram proved to be the ideal platform for showcasing her image and lifestyle. Her popularity skyrocketed. Followers were captivated by her looks.
Let me tell y'all this. First of all, this woman, this young lady, it's crazy. Is that this young lady has took herself from wherever she was to where she wanted to build herself up even more. She was never at a point to where, from my understanding, as far as what's being understood, as far as from this commentary itself, that she came from a great family and everything else, but the way that she built herself up and everything like that, like it's crazy that she wanted to be an influencer. You know what I mean? She wanted to get herself out there and, enlighten people about herself and stuff like that. She had these connections. She was connected to these celebrities. So this is my thing as far as with this case, with her case. Why in the hell she's connected with all of these cases? As far as when it got to do, not cases, but all of these celebrities. Why is she, how is she connected to all of these celebrities? And then this type of stuff happened to her. So I'm pretty clueless about that part. You know what I mean? Even though she come from a regular family and all this, that, and the third, she started off doing, things regularly on a regular basis as far as being an influencer on social media. But then, yeah, she has these connections with celebrities. I'm confused. So, her having these connections with these celebrities, now her life is in danger. Y'all let me know. I'm confused. I am.
Books, luxurious lifestyle, and connections to celebrities. As time went on, Janae started appearing in the stories and posts of well-known personalities, further boosting her audience. Before long, her Instagram account reached 3 million followers. She had now become a recognizable figure in the influencer world. This new status allowed her to generate income through brand collaborations, sponsorships, and promotions that aligned with her image. This phase of her life marked a major transition. Janae was no longer just a woman working in the entertainment industry. She had become a media personality, someone people followed, talked about, and watched closely. As her social media fame continued to grow, Mercedes Moore started thinking about how to turn her massive following into a stable source of income. Sponsored content brought in money, but relying on platform algorithms and advertiser demands came with limitations. She wanted a way to take full control of her earnings and build a more direct connection with her audience. During this time, she took notice of OnlyFans, a platform that allowed content creators to sell exclusive material to subscribers for a monthly fee. Mercedes saw how many models and influencers were achieving financial success on the site and decided to give it a try. After setting up her account, she immediately started promoting it to her followers. Those interested in exclusive content flocked to her page, and within a short period, her subscriber count skyrocketed. In just a few months, she had thousands of paying followers, and her earnings exceeded all expectations. Unlike brand deals that depended on outside companies, OnlyFans provided Janae with a stable and predictable income. She was no longer tied to late-night shifts at clubs and could work on her own terms. Financial independence allowed her to make decisions that once seemed out of reach. As her earnings grew, Janae was able to completely step away from the entertainment industry. Her primary source of income was now online. She created content, managed her social media presence, and built her personal brand. Leaving the club scene was a conscious and significant decision for her. She no longer wanted to depend on clients, rigid schedules, or the demands of a nightlife-driven career. This newfound stability also had a positive impact on her personal life. Around this time, she began a relationship with a man who was not involved in show business or the entertainment world. He preferred to stay out of the public eye, and their relationship developed away from media attention and fan speculation. Those close to Mercedes noted that she seemed calmer and more self-assured. She could now afford to live in a private, upscale community, travel freely, and pursue projects that genuinely excited her. She had plans to launch her own clothing line and expand her personal brand. On the surface, this chapter of her life appeared to be her most successful: financial independence, personal happiness, and a thriving social media career. However, as her popularity grew, so did unforeseen dangers that she had underestimated. Among her millions of followers were not just devoted fans, but also individuals whose unhealthy obsession could lead to serious consequences. The first warning signs came when personal details started appearing in the comments under her posts. Strangers mentioned neighborhoods where she lived and listed places she frequently visited. At first, it seemed like a coincidence, but soon, things spiraled out of control. One user went as far as publicly posting her home address. This quickly became a serious problem. Soon after, messages containing threats, inappropriate requests, and persistent demands for meetings began flooding her inbox. And then, strangers started showing up at her house. Some arrived with gifts, hoping to get her attention. Others simply stood.
So I do want to say this, like everybody, when it comes down to content creators, and also, well, I'm gonna speak on content creators now, But when it comes down to content creators, okay, I get it. Everybody wants to be able to make their bread. They want to make that bag, you know what I mean, and get that bag, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to you being an influencer, you know what I mean, and a lot of stuff, like you really have to be careful. You really have to think about, do you want that type of attention? Do you really want that type of attention? Do you really want the focus on you in that type of way? Because it's things that come, it's cons and pros that comes with all of this attention. You know what I mean? Like real talk. You have to take the good with the bad. You have to. If you're not willing to take the good and the bad, you should not be or try to be within that certain part of industry at all, period. Because at the end of the day, you're gonna get pushed within a certain amount of industry, no matter what. No matter what. So we really have to be careful about doing certain things when you start off as a content creator and then you are an influencer and you get to a certain level, within your platform, and it is what it is from that point, because you never know who is actually watching you and who has been watching you, who still may be watching you. You don't know. You know what I mean? So we have to be very careful. And then that's why, I do not take lightly of people sitting up here doxing and doing all this crazy stuff, when they got to do with folks sitting up here, doing things when they got to no, leave that stuff alone, because at the end of the day, you really could come across some certain people that will harm you, hurt you, and hurt your family just because, and take their life. And you have no reason. They have no reason, and nothing could be solved. So let's get back to it. I'm sorry, y'all.
Stood outside her gates, waiting for a glimpse of her. In some instances, people even rang her doorbell, asking to be let in. Initially, she dismissed these incidents as isolated events, but the situation kept escalating. Unknown individuals began lurking near her residence, waiting by her parking area, and following her movements. She started noticing the same cars parked nearby at different times of the day. Her lifestyle changed. She started going out less and became more cautious with her social media posts. Janae no longer tagged her location, avoided showing details of her home's interior, and took extra steps to prevent anyone from figuring out where she lived. The sense of security she once had was gone. Now, every knock at the door made her anxious, and unexpected noises put her on edge. At some point, Janae realized she couldn't continue living this way. She made the decision to move to a gated community in Houston. It seemed like the safest option: secured entry, surveillance cameras, and on-site security. Her new home was supposed to be her sanctuary, a place where no one could reach her without permission. It felt like this step would finally put an end to the unwanted attention. But even the highest fences couldn't protect her from what was about to happen. While Mercedes Moore was enjoying her success, someone was watching her from a distance, someone she had never met and didn't even know existed. His name was Kevin Accordo. He lived in Florida, led what seemed to be a normal life, had no criminal history, held a job, and appeared to be just like millions of other people. But at some point, something in his mind shifted. Kevin became obsessed with Mercedes. He followed her every move through social media. Each new photo, every post, only deepened his fixation. She had no idea who he was. He was just another follower among millions, but to him, she was the center of his world. Over time, his obsession turned into an unhealthy fixation. Kevin convinced himself that there was a special connection between them, even though they had never interacted. He studied her updates, analyzed her lifestyle, took note of the places she visited, and paid close attention to the people in her circle. At some point, watching from a distance was no longer enough. He decided he had to meet her. Kevin started looking for ways to find out where Mercedes lived. Even though she was careful not to share her exact location, small details in her posts gave him clues. He examined the backgrounds of her photos, compared interior elements to real estate listings, and combed through comments from followers, all in an attempt to pinpoint her address. The turning point came with one of her final posts. In the picture, a small detail, her front door, was visible. That was all Kevin needed. From this image, he was able to pinpoint the neighborhood, and when a follower casually mentioned the name of the residential complex, he had his answer. Now he knew exactly where to find her. Without hesitation, he got into his car and began the long drive to Texas. It was a journey spanning thousands of miles. He crossed multiple states, spending days on the road. But none of that mattered to him. He was convinced that this meeting would change everything. When Kevin Accordo arrived in Houston, his main goal was to get inside the gated community where Mercedes Moore lived. The area was secured with controlled access and on-site security. However, he managed to bypass these protections. According to law enforcement, he may have slipped in behind a resident's vehicle as they entered the complex or posed as a delivery driver to avoid suspicion. Surveillance footage captured him several times walking near her home, suggesting he was surveying the area before making his move. There were no signs of forced entry. The windows remained intact, the door was undamaged, leading investigators to believe that he may have waited for Mercedes at the entrance and forced his way in as she opened the door. Another possibility was that he had learned of a scheduled package delivery and used it as an excuse to get her to open up. Once he was inside, the situation took a deadly turn. The attack was swift and violent. The evidence suggested that Mercedes fought back with everything she had. Bloodstains on the walls, floor, and furniture painted a picture of a desperate struggle. She resisted until the very end, but Kevin had the physical advantage. Her injuries told the story of a brutal assault. Bruises and deep marks covered her body, indicating a sustained and aggressive attack. The trauma suggested that she had suffered severe blows to the head. There was no firearm found at the scene, but authorities determined that the cause of death was asphyxiation. Kevin had likely grabbed her by the neck and refused to let go until she stopped moving. After committing the crime, he did not leave. He stayed inside the apartment for 3 days. For 72 hours, he lived in the home of the person he had taken from this world. He slept in Mercedes's bed, ate from her refrigerator, and used her personal belongings. His fingerprints were everywhere. His presence was imprinted in every room. During those 3 days, he also left writings on the walls, mirrors, and doors. They were scribbled in red lipstick, a collection of disjointed phrases. Some expressed regret, others hinted at betrayal, and there were cryptic messages about Mercedes allegedly wearing another man's ring. Investigators believed this either pointed to a severe mental breakdown or an overwhelming sense of injustice that he felt. No one raised the alarm at first, because Mercedes's family was in another city. Concern only arose when she stopped responding to calls and messages. That was when her father, Marc Gagné, made the decision to check on her in person. Arriving at her home on the evening of August 29th, he immediately sensed that something was wrong. Her car was still in the garage, meaning she hadn't left the complex. He walked up to the front door, rang the doorbell, and knocked. No answer. Peering through the windows, he saw that the curtains were drawn, and there was no sign of movement inside. Mark knocked again, this time louder. Another ring of the doorbell. Silence. He tried the doorknob, but the door was locked. Stepping back, he braced himself and threw his weight against it. It didn't budge at first, but on the second attempt, the lock gave way, and the door swung open. A strong, suffocating odor hit him instantly. The air inside was thick with decay. His stomach turned, but he forced himself to step inside. That's when his eyes locked onto the staircase. At the bottom, sprawled on the floor, was his daughter. Mark froze. Mercedes was lying face down, her body positioned unnaturally. Her clothing was stained with dried blood, her skin pale, her lips tinted with a bluish hue. Mark couldn't move.
So y'all, I'm letting y'all know now that basically because I already had did a live about this, but basically, when the father came into the house, Once he seen his daughter, he also seen the daughter attack her. And once he seen the daughter attacker, he took his life. And from that point, it was just pretty much a wrap.
Couldn't look away. Time itself seemed to stop. Then, suddenly, a dull noise came from upstairs. He snapped his head up. In the dim light of the second floor, he saw a figure collapsed on the ground. The man's body trembled slightly, but within seconds, he went still. Without hesitation, Mark ran up the stairs. Inside one of the rooms, on the floor in a pool of blood, lay a man with a knife lodged in his chest. He was still alive, but his eyes were already losing focus. Mark didn't recognize him. He had never seen this person before. Looking around, he noticed the same red writings covering the walls, mirrors, and doors, lipstick scrawls, uneven and smeared, with erratic lettering that seemed to come from a deeply disturbed mind. Among the messages, "I'm sorry. I was deceived. She wore another man's ring." As Mark tried to process what he was seeing, the man on the floor took one final breath, and then he was gone. Police arrived just minutes after receiving the call. As investigators surveyed the scene, they identified the deceased as Kevin Accorto, a Florida resident with no prior criminal record and no history of legal trouble. It was confirmed that he had spent 3 days in the house after committing the crime. His actions suggested a deep psychological disturbance. He made no attempt to clean up the crime scene. He didn't try to escape. He simply waited. When the door opened and Mercedes's father stepped inside, Accorto realized his time was up. Knowing there was no way out, he grabbed a knife and inflicted a fatal wound to his.
My thing is, y'all, and I hate to keep on pausing it, but I have to. You know what I mean? I have to because I need to make it as content. I need to make it as commissary, compensatory, whatever, child. At the end of the day, what I'm saying is that why did this man sit up here and why did it take him for 3 days? He stayed after he unalived this woman, this young lady. Why would he stay in her home for 3 days? She been in her home unalived for 3 days until somebody actually came up in there, and then when somebody come up in there, now he wanted to take his life. That's weird to me. That was just completely out of this world for me. What y'all think about that?
To his own chest. Paramedics attempted to save him, but he passed away on the spot. The investigation confirmed that Kevin had never met Mercedes. They weren't acquaintances, had never spoken, and had no personal connection. The only link between them existed entirely in his mind. Piece by piece, police reconstructed what had happened. A man had stalked her through social media, tracked down her location, traveled thousands of miles to find her, broken into her home, taken her life, and then lived in her space as if she were still there. The truth was finally uncovered, but it changed nothing. As news of Mercedes Moore's tragic death made headlines, the public reaction was immediate. The case sparked widespread discussion, quickly gaining traction in both mainstream media and social platforms. But almost as soon as the news broke, misinformation followed. False reports flooded the internet. Some sources claimed her passing was due to an overdose of prohibited substances, while others stated she had died from COVID-19. Speculative articles circulated rumors about her health, suggesting she had a serious illness and that complications had led to her death.
And just because she was a social media influencer and had those many type of followers, like literally, y'all just gonna throw her death and everything else. They just threw her pretty much over to the side. They just threw it right over to the side. I'm like when I did my live earlier, and it was people up in my chat that was asking me like, like who is she basically? I told them like, man, look, I never heard of her. I never heard of her. So it was confusing to me at the same time because I never heard of this young lady, but I see why now because who's to say that this person, this young lady, is not the only young lady that has been literally just tossed over to the side like nothing happened. So you know what? They got me messed up. Let me find out some more, not only about this case, but about anybody else's case. Because now y'all got me messed up. All right, let's go.
Then came an even more bizarre theory, one that alleged Mercedes had lost her life during an intimate encounter. This rumor gained traction after unverified claims surfaced about how her body had been found. None of these rumors were based on fact. Official sources quickly dismissed the false narratives, confirming that her death was a result of a premeditated crime linked to stalking. With the full picture now clear, law enforcement had no further doubts. The perpetrator was gone. There would be no trial, no legal proceedings, and no sentence. Kevin Accordo had evaded justice by taking his own life, leaving Mercedes' family with an overwhelming sense of unfairness. For her loved ones, it meant that no one would be held accountable. There would be no conviction, no punishment that could bring even a fraction of closure. All that remained were scattered pieces of evidence, signs of struggle, the cryptic writings on the walls, and questions that would never be answered. Her family was devastated. Marc Gagné, her father, was the first to see her lifeless body. The trauma of that moment never left him. He spoke openly about how his mind constantly replayed that night, walking into his daughter's home and finding her gone. Her younger sisters lost more than a sibling. They lost their guiding figure, the person they looked up to. Her mother struggled to cope, crushed by the weight of what had happened. Despite their grief, the family made a decision. They would do everything they could to keep Mercedes' memory alive. Her father took to the media, speaking out about the dangers of stalking and the need for influencers to take their safety seriously. He wanted his daughter's story to serve as a warning to others. Thanks for watching, everyone. Your support means a lot to me, and you can help my channel grow by hitting that like button, dropping a comment, and sharing this video. Your engagement really makes a difference. See you soon.
Okay, so what I did, I went and I looked up everything, and I'm about to bring it up, child. Y'all know, just stop playing with me. I'm nosy as F. I'm nosy as hell, so we gonna get into it. And I'm gonna go back into it. Period. Let me share my screen because for some reason it looked like they trying to let this go. Child. We gonna see. Because it said it was unavailable at some point. But we gonna see. Nobody did none of this stuff. Give me up off it. I done cooked enough food. I ain't got some food. I don't care nobody else. They petty.
A memorial service for Janae Gagne, the Houston woman better known to millions of followers as Instagram model and influencer Miss Mercedes Moore, is set for Saturday in Rosenberg. The 33-year-old woman was found dead inside her Richmond apartment on Sunday. Police said another body, later identified as 34-year-old Kevin Alexander Ocorto, was also inside her apartment. Investigators believe Gagne was strangled and beaten before he took his own life. Now, while police have not disclosed a motive in the case yet, Janae's father, he talked about finding rambling scribbles, as you saw there, on the walls inside the apartment in the moment that he discovered his daughter's lifeless body. Now, he suggests Ocorto may have been a crazed follower of her social media account. He spoke with us earlier this week.
Sadness took over real quick. My girlfriend, bless her little heart, at the time ran upstairs and saw the guy still in there. Anger took over. And she's crying hysterically. I'm mad as can be, especially because the guy's still up there. My girlfriend later on asked me, why didn't you cry at first? And I said, I didn't cry because I was so mad and upset that this guy, even though he was committing suicide at the time, was in my daughter's house.
As for today's memorial, the public will be able to pay respects on Saturday from 10 a.m. until 1 o'clock at Davis Green Lawn Funeral Chapel in Rosenberg. Organizers noted a family-only service will be taking place before it opens up to friends and other guests. A balloon release is also planned ahead of the memorial. That event is set for tomorrow at 7:30 at Terry Hershey Park in Houston.
Tell me what y'all think about that because I'm completely confused about a lot of things. You know, when it got to do with that case, like it don't have a lot of social media or media attention towards it. She literally had over 1 million views. She was a social media influencer, was in contact and had a contact, with a lot of celebrities at the same time. But her life don't mean nothing. Make it make sense. Her life don't mean nothing because a random dude, supposedly a random dude, I just don't know. Me personally, I take it to a whole total different level, y'all. I do because I think outside of the box on a lot of things. It's just not for the way that I think. It's just not for social media, so I'm not gonna go there. And I'm not in the things that I believe that I'm just not going to bring it to social media because I'm gonna protect my family and I'm gonna protect whatever it is, when it has to do with me or whatever. But this stuff goes way beyond. Once you get up there, as far as being an influencer and you have contact with celebrities, baby, you need to be careful. That's all I'm gonna say. You need to be careful with a whole lot of things. That's it, that's all. That's what it comes down to. You need to be careful. If you ain't down with it, that I mean, that's what it is. So okay, Reed, you feel me? You feel me, baby. You know what I mean? Like seriously. I'm not about to go all into this, that, and the third because at the end of the day, I already see what it comes down to. But it's not too much to be suspicious about. It's either you know what's going on up in this world or you don't. It's simple as that. So I'm going to get into this next segment and then I'll be up off of here. Give me a second. I love y'all for the ones that's choosing to stay. Um, I really appreciate you all for the ones that choose to go and y'all hit the like button and y'all came and support. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. I will be right back. Give me a second.
Through the kitchen curtains as David Carter sat at the dining table with his wife, Ava. At 40 years old, David had the weathered look of a man who had seen his fair share of life's challenges. As they sipped their coffee and discussed the day ahead, the sound of footsteps on the stairs caught their attention. Their daughter, Mia, shuffled into the kitchen, still clad in her pajamas. Her eyes were heavy with sleep, and her normally bouncy curls hung limp around her face. David and Ava exchanged a concerned glance as Mia slumped into a chair at the table. "Sweetheart," Ava began gently, "you do remember it's a school day, right? Not the weekend?" Mia nodded glumly but made no move to get up. David set down his coffee mug. "Come on, kiddo, you need to get ready for school. Go on up and change. We are almost late." Instead of complying, Mia looked up at her parents with pleading eyes. "I don't want to go to school today," she said in a small voice. "I don't feel good." Ava immediately rose from her chair and approached her daughter. With practiced ease, she felt Mia's forehead, cheeks, and the back of her neck. Her eyes scanned Mia's skin, looking for any signs of illness. "You don't have a fever, sweetie," Ava said, her brow furrowed in concern, "and your skin looks fine." "But I don't feel good," Mia insisted, her voice taking on a whining quality. "My skin hurts when you touch it." As Mia spoke, her eyes darted to the side and she glanced down at her lap. David recognized the telltale signs of a lie. He'd seen enough of them in his line of work to spot them easily, even in his own daughter. With a sigh, David stood and approached Mia and Ava. He crouched down to Mia's eye level, his voice firm but not unkind. "Mia, do you remember what we talked about? What's the consequence for lying?" Mia's shoulders slumped further. "No screen time for a whole week," she mumbled. Ava placed a hand on David's shoulder. "Let's not jump to conclusions," she said softly. "It's still morning and she might just be tired. Remember how late you two were up last night with that math homework?" David nodded, recalling the frustration on Mia's face as they'd worked through problem after problem. Ava continued, addressing Mia. "How about we get you to bed earlier tonight? Or maybe you could take a nap after school if you're still feeling tired." Mia hesitated, then said in a barely audible voice, "That's not why." David raised an eyebrow. "No. Are you sure it's not because you're tired from our study session? You have math class today, don't you? Do you remember what we went over last night?" Mia fidgeted in her seat, clearly uncomfortable. David pressed on, his voice gentle but firm. "We know you don't like math, honey, but you can't just call in sick because you don't like a subject. Sometimes we all have to do things we don't enjoy. That's part of growing up. After a long moment, Mia nodded reluctantly. I'm sorry for lying, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Without another word, she pushed back from the table and trudged upstairs to get ready for school. As Mia's footsteps faded, David and Ava shared a worried look. You don't think she's being bullied again, do you? Ava asked, her voice tight with concern. David shook his head. I don't think so. Remember, those kids who were causing trouble were suspended months ago, and the school's been really proactive with that new whistleblower program on the parent-teacher app. If something was going on, I think Mia would tell us, or other students would have blown it up on the app. Ava nodded, though she didn't look entirely convinced. You're right, it's just, she hasn't acted like this in a long time, not since last year. I know, David said, running a hand through his hair, but I think it really is just the math. We started a new chapter last night, exponents and roots. It's pretty challenging stuff for her grade, and Mia was really struggling to grasp the concepts. As they discussed the situation, both parents tried to push away the nagging feeling that there might be more to Mia's reluctance than just difficult schoolwork. But for now, they had to focus on getting their daughter ready for the day ahead. 10 minutes passed, and the house remained eerily quiet. David glanced at the clock on the wall, then back at Ava. With a nod of understanding, Ava headed upstairs to check on Mia, while David returned to the dining table to finish his breakfast. As Ava entered Mia's room, she found her daughter dressed for school, but sitting on the edge of her bed, staring at something in her lap. Upon closer inspection, Ava realized it was one of Mia's diapers. Mia, sweetheart, Ava said gently, why aren't you wearing your diaper? You know you need to. Mia looked up, her eyes brimming with tears. Mom, I'm 7 years old, she said, her voice trembling. None of my friends wear diapers anymore. I don't want to wear them either. Ava's heart ached for her daughter. She sat down on the bed beside Mia, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. I know it's hard, sweetie, she said softly, but remember, you're not wearing them because of your age, it's because of your medical condition. So is there something wrong with me? Mia asked. She took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. You see, your bladder doesn't always send the right signals to your brain, which makes it harder for you to know when you need to use the bathroom. The doctors say you might outgrow it in a few years, but for now, the diapers help keep you comfortable and dry. Mia sniffled, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. But why now? Ava asked, puzzled. You've never refused to wear them before. What's changed? I'm not a baby, and the diaper makes me itchy, Mia insisted, her voice rising slightly. And I hate how my pants look all bulgy. My friends don't have to deal with this. Ava hugged her daughter close, her mind racing. I have an idea, she said after a moment. How about we go shopping after school today? Just you and me. We can look for some slimmer diapers that won't be as noticeable under your clothes. Would that help? Mia considered this for a moment, then nodded hesitantly. Okay, Ava said, relief evident in her voice. For today, though, can you please wear your regular diaper? Just for me. With clear reluctance, Mia finally agreed. Ava helped her daughter finish getting ready, making sure her backpack was packed and her shoes were on. As they headed downstairs, they found David by the front door, already putting on his work shoes. Come on, kiddo, he called, checking his watch. We need to get moving. Mia hurried to put on her shoes while Ava quickly packed some toast in a lunchbox. Eat this in the car, she told Mia, handing her the box. With a quick kiss goodbye for Ava, David and Mia rushed out the door and climbed into the car. As they pulled out of the driveway, Ava watched them go. A mixture of worry and love etched on her face. The drive to school was unusually quiet. Mia focused on eating her breakfast, barely responding to David's attempts at conversation. He tried to review some of the math concepts they'd covered the night before, and while Mia answered his questions correctly, her responses lacked their usual enthusiasm. As they pulled into the school parking lot, David turned to his daughter. Hey, he said softly, you don't need to worry about math class today. You're doing great. Just remember what we went over last night, okay? Mia nodded silently and climbed out of the car. David watched as she walked towards the school entrance, her steps slow and hesitant. He couldn't help but notice how she kept patting the back of her skirt and adjusting her backpack as if trying to hide something. With a sigh, David checked his watch. He had some time before he needed to be at work, and something about Mia's behavior didn't sit right with him. Making a split-second decision, he got out of the car and followed his daughter at a distance. David hung back as Mia entered the school, careful not to draw attention to himself. He watched as she joined the queue at the reception desk to register her attendance, her shoulders hunched and her movements hesitant. As he stood to the side of the entrance, allowing other students to stream past him, a familiar voice caught his attention. "Mr. Carter, Mia's father, right?" David turned to see Mr. Richard Calloway, Mia's new classroom teacher, approaching him with a friendly smile. David nodded, shaking the man's hand. "That's right. Good morning, Mr. Calloway." "I hope everything's all right," Mr. Calloway said, glancing towards where Mia had disappeared into the school. "Dropping Mia off yourself today?" David hesitated for a moment before deciding to voice his concerns. "Actually, I was wondering if you've noticed anything off with Mia lately. Any issues with bullying or strange behavior in class?" Mr. Calloway's brow furrowed in thought. "Nothing out of the ordinary that I've seen," he said after a moment. "Of course, I've only been her teacher for about 3 weeks now, but from what I can tell, she seems to be adjusting well. Is there any problem with Mia that I should be aware, sir?" David shook his head, but not entirely sure himself. "It's just, she seemed really reluctant to come to school today. I thought maybe something had happened." "Ah," Mr. Calloway said, understanding dawning on his face. "You know, it might just be the math. We're getting into some pretty challenging material, and I recently put up a pop quiz. I've noticed a lot of students struggling a bit, not just Mia." "That's what I thought too," David admitted. "We were working on exponents and roots last night, and it was pretty tough going." Mr. Calloway nodded sympathetically. "Have you considered enrolling Mia in the after-school math program? It might help her feel more confident with the material." David shook his head. "I usually teach her at home in the evenings," he explained, "but maybe we should look into it if she keeps struggling." "Well, you're clearly an attentive father," Mr. Calloway said with a smile. "I'm sure Mia appreciates that, but really I wouldn't worry too much. Lots of kids find math challenging, but they're all doing just fine." The school bell rang, and Mr. Calloway excused himself to head to class. David found himself feeling slightly more reassured. He watched as the last few stragglers hurried into the school, their backpacks bouncing against their shoulders as they rushed through the doors. With a deep breath, he turned to head back to his car, but a lingering sense of unease still clung to him. Maybe it was just the math, like Mr. Calloway said, but what if it wasn't? As he returned to his car and settled into the driver's seat, he drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. With one last glance at the school entrance, he decided to set the matter aside for now, reminding himself that Mia was in a safe place now, and there was no need to overthink the morning's incident. David began his transformation from concerned father to undercover narcotics detective. He suited up, slicking wax through his hair and fastening his holster around his waist, taking care to leave his service weapon unloaded. A precaution he always took when coming home, yet one that ensured a quick response if necessary. As he prepared for the day ahead, David's mind shifted from worries about his daughter to thoughts of the dangerous world he was about to re-enter. He was part of a task force dedicated to infiltrating drug distribution networks, and today's mission involved a sting operation at an abandoned warehouse. The drive to the operation site would take several hours, giving David plenty of time to mentally prepare. He thought about the strategies they'd developed to dismantle the cartel, the looming operation deadline, and the ever-present budget constraints. Just as he merged onto the highway, his phone rang. Glancing at the caller ID, he saw it was his boss, Senior Detective Mark Lawson. David answered, putting the call on speaker. "Carter here," he said, keeping his eyes on the road. "David, I'm sorry for the late notice," Mark's voice crackled through the speaker. "There's been a change in shifts. Any chance you could take the night shift instead of days?" David frowned. What happened? Mark sighed heavily. One of our informants has gone missing. We're worried the cartel might be onto us, so we're postponing the morning operation. It's too risky to be near their warehouse right now. Plus, we need more officers for an unexpected night surveillance op at a different location. Looks like we've found a fifth warehouse belonging to the cartel. David considered this for a moment. While the change was unexpected, part of him was relieved. His unease about Mia's behavior still nagged at him, and a night shift would allow him to be home during the day. Actually, boss, that might work out better for me, David said. I've got some family stuff going on. A night shift could be good. I appreciate your flexibility, David, Mark said, relief evident in his voice. I'll send you the details for tonight's operation. Make sure you read through the material I'm sending about this new warehouse. It's crucial we're all on the same page. After confirming the details and ending the call, David found himself with an unexpectedly free morning. He decided to head home, planning to review the operation materials from the comfort of his home office. As he passed the school again, he briefly considered stopping to check on Mia, but a glance at the clock showed it was only 9:30, still too early for recess. With a sigh, he continued on his way home, hoping that a quiet morning might help settle the nagging worry in the pit of his stomach. The familiar sight of his house came into view as David pulled into the driveway. He couldn't help but feel a sense of relief washing over him, knowing he had some unexpected time at home. As he entered, he was greeted by the surprised face of his wife, Ava. David, she questioned, a mix of concern and confusion in her voice. Is everything all right? Why aren't you at work? He explained the situation to her as they moved to the living room, settling onto the couch. There's been a change in plans. I'm on night shift now, so I've got some time before I need to head out. Ava nodded, processing the information. Well, I suppose that's not so bad. It'll be nice to have you home for a bit. She paused, studying his face. How did drop-off go with Mia? Did she seem okay? David sighed, running a hand through his hair. I'm not sure, to be honest. She was so quiet in the car, and when we got to school, she just seemed off. I actually ran into her new teacher, Mr. Calloway. Oh. Ava leaned forward, interested. What did he say? He thinks it might just be the math or his new approach with pop quizzes. I know students might not be used to it yet since they're still adjusting to the new teacher's methods, David explained. Apparently, he said that a lot of kids are struggling with the new material. He suggested we consider enrolling Mia in the after-school math program. Ava frowned slightly. I'm not sure Mia would like that idea. Couldn't you just keep teaching her at home? David shook his head. With more night shifts coming up, I won't be able to teach her as regularly. Maybe you could help her instead. Of course, Ava agreed readily. We don't need to waste money on an after-school class she wouldn't enjoy anyway. As they continued to discuss Mia and her struggles with math, David's phone buzzed. It was the promised material from his boss about tonight's operation. I should probably go upstairs and review this, he said, standing up. Got to be prepared for tonight. Ava nodded understandingly, and David made his way to his home office. The next few hours passed in a blur of reading, research, and an online team meeting to discuss the night's operation. By the time David finished, his eyes were strained from staring at the computer screen. He closed the window on his computer and headed downstairs, the aroma of lunch wafting up to greet him. As he entered the kitchen, he saw Ava busy preparing their meal, carefully plating their daughter's favorite dish. A glance at the clock on the wall, showing 12:20 p.m., told him Mia should be arriving home any minute now. Once Ava finished setting the table, she turned to David. I'm going to go change, she said. I promised Mia we'd go shopping for a new brand of diapers. David nodded, watching as she disappeared down the hall. He hoped the trip would help Mia feel more comfortable. As David made his way to the kitchen, true to his prediction, he caught sight of the school bus through the window. He watched as Mia stepped off, surrounded by the cheerful noise of her classmates. But as the bus pulled away, David's heart dropped. Something was wrong. Mia was walking towards the house, but she wasn't wearing her school skirt. She was in just her diaper. David rushed to the front door, throwing it open and running out to meet his daughter. He reached her halfway down the path, immediately wrapping her in a tight hug. Mia burst into tears, burying her face in his chest. "Mia, sweetheart," David said, his voice shaking slightly. "What happened? Where's your skirt?" Mia just cried harder, unable to form words. Ava appeared at the door in her freshly changed dress, her face a mask of shock as she took in the scene before her. She rushed to join them, crouching down next to Mia. "Baby, please tell us what's wrong," Ava pleaded, her voice gentle but urgent. "We promise we won't be mad. We just want to help you. Did something happen at school? Who did this to you?" It took several long moments for Mia to collect herself enough to speak. When she did, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Mr. Calloway took my pants. He said everyone should see that our kind wears diapers." Ava gasped, her hand flying to her mouth in shock. David felt a surge of fury rise within him, his jaw clenching as he struggled to maintain his composure. This is unbelievable," David said, rubbing his eyes and the back of his neck nervously. "I just talked with Mr. Calloway this morning. He didn't seem like the type who would do this." Mia looked up at them, her eyes wide and fearful. "Please," she begged, "I'm not lying. Please don't be mad at me." David hugged his daughter tighter, his voice firm as he repeated, "You sure Mr. Calloway did this? Your new teacher?" Mia nodded, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "He said if I told anyone what he's been doing, I'd get punished. That's why I was scared to go to school this morning. I'm sorry I didn't tell you before." David and Ava shared a look of horror and concern over their daughter's head. "We believe you, sweetheart," Ava assured her, her voice thick with emotion. "Every word. You've done nothing wrong." As they stood there on the front lawn holding their trembling daughter, David felt a cold determination settle over him. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. He was going to find out what happened at school and why their daughter had been sent home in such a degrading way. The weight of Mia's revelation hung heavy in the air as David gently guided his family back into the house. Once inside, Ava immediately took charge, pulling Mia into a warm embrace and murmuring soothing words. She led her upstairs to her room, offering comfort as she helped Mia get changed. David, however, was a man on a mission. He followed them upstairs, bounding up the steps 2 at a time, and burst into his office next to Mia's room. With quick, precise movements, he grabbed his wallet, phone, and car keys. His mind raced, a potent mix of rage and protective instinct driving him forward. As he thundered back down the stairs, Ava looked up from where she was tending to Mia on her bed. Her eyes widened as she took in his determined stance and the set of his jaw. "David," she began, her voice cautious, "what are you doing?" "I'm going to the school," he replied, his tone brooking no argument. "I'm going to handle this once and for all." Mia's head snapped up, her eyes wide with fear. "No, Dad," she cried out. "The teacher will punish me tomorrow." David stopped and walked into her room, crouching down in front of his daughter. His expression softened as he met her frightened gaze. "I promise you, sweetheart," he said, his voice low and intense, "that teacher will never be able to hurt you or anyone else again. I'll make sure he won't see tomorrow." As David straightened and turned towards the door, Ava's voice stopped him. "David," she said, her tone urgent, "your holster. You still have your service weapon. You should take it off." David paused, his hand on the bedroom's doorknob. He turned to look at his wife, and the depth of anger in his eyes made her take a step back. Without saying a word, he shook his head no, then strode downstairs, his steps quick and purposeful as he pushed open the front door. Ava followed quickly, catching up to him just as he was about to get into the car. "David, please," she pleaded, grabbing his arm. "Don't do anything stupid. This won't help anyone." But David was already closing the car door, his face set in grim determination. As he sped away, Ava and Mia stood in the driveway watching him go. His heart raced with anger and frustration, not just for what might happen at the school, but for what this could mean for his daughter. As David drove, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, his mind was a whirlwind of dark thoughts. He couldn't shake the image of his daughter, humiliated and scared, forced to ride the school bus home in just her diaper with the other children. The sound of children's laughter from the bus earlier echoed in his ears, and he imagined how mortifying it must have been for his daughter. His thoughts turned to Mr. Calloway's face, the teacher he had spoken to just that morning. How could he have seemed so normal, so concerned about Mia's progress, when all along he had been tormenting her? What else had been happening to his daughter at school? How long had this been going on? As he pulled into the school parking lot, David took a deep breath, trying to calm the rage that threatened to overwhelm him before he stepped out. He glanced down at his holstered weapon, then reached into the glove compartment where he kept the magazine. For a moment, his hand hovered over it, temptation warring with his sense of duty. In the end, professionalism won out. He removed the weapon from his belt and stored it in the gun case in the glove compartment. This wasn't a situation that called for firearms, but that didn't mean he was any less determined to see justice done. With one last steadying breath, David stepped out of the car and strode towards the school entrance, his face set in a mask of grim determination. Whatever happened next, he was ready to face it head-on for Mia's sake, and for the sake of every child who had ever been victimized by those meant to protect them. The school corridors seemed spacious and quiet, as David strode purposefully towards the administrative area. The few remaining students and staff members he passed gave him a wide berth, sensing the barely contained fury radiating from him. As he entered the reception area, the secretary looked up and stood to greet him from behind the desk, her welcoming smile faltering as she took in his thunderous expression. "Can I help you, sir?" she asked, her voice wavering slightly. "I'm looking for Mr. Richard Calloway," David said, his tone clipped and cold. "Grade 7 classroom teacher. Where is he?" The receptionist blinked, taken aback by his directness. "Mr. Calloway is teaching an after-school lesson right now. Is there a prob—" "I need to speak with him and the principal," David interrupted. "Immediately." Before the receptionist could respond, a woman in a smart suit walked into the area. Her eyes widened as she took in the scene. "Is everything all right here?" she asked, her gaze flickering between David and the receptionist. David turned to face her, recognizing her as Principal Janet Holloway. Without preamble, he launched into an explanation of the situation, his voice tight with controlled anger as he recounted what Mia had told him. Principal Holloway's face paled as she listened, her expression a mixture of shock and disbelief. "Mr. Carter," she said, her voice strained, "I assure you there must be some explanation for this. Perhaps if we all sit down in my office—" But David was already moving, striding down the corridor towards the classrooms. "No," he said firmly. "I want answers from the teacher now." Principal Holloway hurried after him, her heels clicking on the linoleum floor as she struggled to keep up. "Mr. Carter, please," she pleaded. "We need to approach this calmly. Let's not do anything rash." David ignored her, his eyes fixed on the door to the grade 7 classroom. He knocked loudly, the sound echoing in the empty hallway. When there was no immediate response, he knocked again, harder this time. The door swung open, revealing Mr. Calloway. His friendly smile from that morning was nowhere to be seen as he took in David's furious expression and the anxious principal behind him. "Mr. Carter," he said, his voice carefully neutral, "this is unexpected. Is there something I can help you with? I believe Mia's already gone home." David's eyes narrowed. "Yes, Mia's home, and that's why I'm here," he growled, his voice low and dangerous. "You can explain why my daughter came home wearing nothing but her diaper." Mr. Calloway's face went blank for a moment before he recovered. "I'm sorry, but I have no idea what you're talking about. That's ridiculous," he said, his eyes quickly flicking to the side before returning to the classroom, deliberately avoiding David's gaze. David knew right away that the teacher was hiding the truth. "My daughter doesn't lie," David said, taking a step closer, "and I want answers. Now." Principal Holloway stepped between them, her hands raised in a placating gesture. "Gentlemen, please, let's discuss this in my office. There are students inside watching us." Mr. Calloway's expression hardened. "Yes, there are students inside and I have a class to teach," he he said coldly. "If Mr. Carter wants to speak with me, he can wait until I'm finished in an hour." The principal turned to him, her voice firm. "Richard, this is serious. I'm asking you to end your class now and come to my office." But Mr. Calloway wasn't backing down. "With all due respect, Principal Holloway, I won't be disrespected like this. Mia is clearly making up stories, and you should be protecting your staff, not entertaining wild accusations. Perhaps you should call security instead." The principal was clearly taken aback by the teacher's directness. As tension mounted in the hallway, David took a deep breath, forcing himself to remain calm. He knew that losing his temper now would only make things worse, for Mia and for him as an officer. But as he looked at Mr. Calloway's defiant face, he couldn't shake the image of his daughter, scared and humiliated. Whatever it took, he was determined to get to the bottom of this, for Mia's sake and for the sake of every child in this school. The tension in the hallway was palpable, as David, Principal Holloway, and Mr. Calloway faced off. David could feel his pulse pounding in his ears, but he forced himself to take a deep, steadying breath. When he spoke, his voice was low and controlled. "Mr. Calloway," he began, his eyes never leaving the teacher's face, "when you say my daughter is a liar, are you expecting me to believe that she willingly took off her own skirt, climbed onto the school bus, and allowed herself to be laughed at by the other children?" Mr. Calloway's lips curled into a sneer. "Some children will do anything for attention," he said dismissively. "It wouldn't be the first time a student has shown signs of exhibitionism at an early age." David felt a fresh wave of anger wash over him, but he pushed it down. "And I suppose you also think my daughter is lying when she says you told her that all black people, our kind, wore diapers." Principal Holloway's eyes widened in shock as she turned to Mr. Calloway. "Did you really say that, Mr. Calloway? Speak true," she asked, her voice trembling slightly. At this, Mr. Calloway's composure cracked. He let out a burst of laughter, the sound echoing unnaturally in the quiet hallway. "Oh, that is too funny," he chuckled, wiping at his eyes. "I couldn't have come up with a better joke myself." David's hands clenched into fists at his sides, his knuckles turning white with the effort of restraining himself. "I don't find any of this funny," he said, his voice dangerously quiet. His gaze shifted to the classroom, where the children were beginning to stir, some whispering, some laughing, probably from the joke. If there's one thing this teacher taught, David thought bitterly, it was bullying. Mr. Calloway's laughter died away, but the smirk remained on his face. David took a step closer, his next words measured and deliberate. "You targeted the wrong daughter," he said, reaching into his pocket and pulling out his badge. "I'm a police officer, and I can assure you this will be settled through official channels." The smirk vanished from Mr. Calloway's face, replaced by a look of shock. Principal Holloway gasped audibly, her eyes widening as she looked between David and the teacher, likely already considering the damage to the school's reputation if the case dragged on with police involvement. Mr. Calloway's demeanor changed instantly. "Officer, I apologize for laughing. It was unethical for me as a teacher," he stammered, his earlier bravado evaporating. "This is all a big misunderstanding. I'm sure we can find a solution together." David's expression remained hard. "Unethical. What you said to my daughter and did to her could be categorized as abuse and racial discrimination." His voice was cold and unyielding. "The first step in finding a solution," he continued, "is for you to show me where you've kept my daughter's skirt." Mr. Calloway's eyes darted nervously between David and the principal. Realizing he was cornered, he swallowed hard. I left it in the staff restroom," he admitted reluctantly. David's jaw clenched. "Lead the way," he ordered. As they moved down the hallway, Principal Holloway, who had been watching the exchange in stunned silence, seemed to shake herself out of her stupor. She turned to a passing teacher. "Call security," she instructed, and call 911. Mr. Calloway balked at this, but David grabbed his arm, propelling him forward. "Move," he growled. They made their way to the staff restroom, the school security guard catching up and trailing behind them. As they entered, David's eyes immediately scanned the room, landing on a familiar piece of fabric hanging from one of the stall doors. "Why is my daughter's skirt in the staff restroom?" David demanded, his voice tight with barely contained rage. "What did you do to her?" Mr. Calloway's face had gone pale, but he attempted to maintain his composure. "Before you jump to the wrong conclusion, you see, Mia, she didn't want to wear her diaper anymore," he began, his voice shaky. "She took it off during recess, before my math lesson, and she had an accident. She wet herself in class. I brought her here to clean up and told her to put her diaper back on." David's eyes narrowed. "And you didn't think to call a nurse or a female staff member to help her, or perhaps give her a change of clothes? There must be extras in the nurse's office." Mr. Calloway's expression hardened. "She disrupted my class," he said, a note of defiance creeping back into his voice. "She needed to learn a lesson." "A lesson?" David repeated incredulously. "She has a medical condition. Your job is to help her, not humiliate her." Principal Holloway, who had been listening with growing horror, spoke up. "Mr. Calloway, we made sure you were informed about Mia's condition when you started. This is completely unacceptable behavior." Feeling cornered, Mr. Calloway's facade finally cracked, his face contorted with anger as he jabbed a finger at David. "Your kind are all the same," he spat. "Criminals who invade this country and take our jobs. Yes, I refuse to give your daughter new clothes. I sent her home in her diaper to teach her parents a lesson about discipline. That's why you people grow up spoiled, always expecting handouts when you can't even control your family. You should be grateful I didn't do more to your daughter." The room fell silent, the weight of Mr. Calloway's words hanging heavy in the air. David's whole body tensed, every instinct screaming at him to lash out. But he held himself in check, his voice low and dangerous when he finally spoke. "You want to talk about discipline?" he said, his eyes boring into Mr. Calloway's. "My years as a police officer will ensure you face the most severe disciplinary consequences for what you've done. First, you lied and hid the truth from an officer. Then you made a racial discriminatory statement and judgment. And third, you treated my daughter in a degrading, borderline abusive way that no child should ever be treated." Something in David's tone must have frightened Mr. Calloway, because in that moment he lashed out. His hand connected with David's face in a resounding slap, followed by a glob of spit. Before anyone could react, Mr. Calloway bolted from the restroom. The security guards standing outside the restroom door, caught off guard by the sudden turn of events, were too slow to stop him. David, recovering quickly from the assault, took off after the fleeing teacher. His police training kicked in as he sprinted down the corridor, gaining ground on Mr. Calloway with every step. Just as the teacher reached for the handle of his classroom door, David launched himself forward, tackling Mr. Calloway to the ground. They grappled on the floor, Mr. Calloway trying desperately to break free while David worked to restrain him. The classroom door burst open, students pouring out to witness the struggle. David managed to get Mr. Calloway into a hold just as the security guards arrived, panting from their run. As the guards took over, securing Mr. Calloway's hands behind his back, the sound of police sirens filled the air. David stood up, straightening his clothes and catching his breath. He looked around at the shocked faces of the students and staff who had gathered to watch the commotion. In that moment, he wasn't just a father defending his daughter. He was a symbol of justice, standing up against those who would abuse their power. As the police officers entered the building, David felt a mix of emotions wash over him. Relief that Mr. Calloway would face consequences for his actions, anger at what his daughter had endured, and a renewed determination to protect not just Mia, but all the students who might fall victim to such abuse. The officers, recognizing David from the undercover team, approached with a mix of confusion and respect. As they began to process the scene, David knew that this was just the beginning. There would be statements to take, reports to file, and a long road ahead in ensuring that nothing like this ever happened again. But for now, he allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction. Justice was being served, and his daughter, all the students, would be safer because of it. As the police officers led Mr. Calloway away in handcuffs, The hallway buzzed with whispered conversations and shocked expressions. David stood to the side, his adrenaline slowly ebbing as he watched the scene unfold. Principal Holloway approached him, her face a mixture of gratitude and concern. "Mr. Carter," she began, her voice low, "I can't begin to express how sorry I am for what's happened. I assure you we'll be conducting a full investigation into Mr. Calloway's conduct." David nodded, his jaw still tight with residual anger. "I appreciate that, Principal Holloway, but I have to ask, how did someone like him slip through your hiring process?" The principal's shoulders sagged slightly. "Our previous teacher left suddenly, and we were already short-staffed. Mr. Calloway's resume looked promising, and we needed a quick replacement. I take full responsibility for not vetting him more thoroughly." David sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I understand the
power and boundless love. Lord, you are the God of miracles, the one who makes the impossible possible. You have shown throughout time that nothing is too hard for you. The same God who parted the Red Sea, healed the sick, raised the dead, and fed thousands with just a few loaves and fishes is the same God I cry out to today. Lord, I need your miracle in my life. Father, you know my heart, my struggles, my worries, and my deepest desires. You see the burdens I carry, the obstacles before me, and the situations that seem impossible to overcome. But I trust in you, Lord, because I know that you are greater than any challenge I face. Your word reminds me that with you, all things are possible. Matthew 19:26. I hold on to this promise as I seek your divine intervention. Lord, if it is healing that I need, I ask for your miraculous touch upon my body, mind, and spirit. If I am broken, restore me. If I am weak, strengthen me. If I am anxious or weary, grant me peace. You are Jehovah Rapha, the Lord who heals, and I trust in your power to renew my health and well-being. If my struggles are in my finances, Lord, I pray for your provision. You are Jehovah Jireh, my provider. Open doors where there seem to be none. Make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. Isaiah 43:19. Lord, provide for me in ways that only you can, and let your blessings overflow in my life. If I am facing challenges in my relationships with my family, my spouse, my friends, Lord, step into the situation and bring healing, understanding, and reconciliation. Fill our hearts with love, patience, and kindness. Let your peace reign in our relationships and help us to walk in unity and forgiveness. If I am burdened by sorrow, loss, or disappointment, Lord, comfort me with your presence. Wipe away my tears and remind me that you are close to the brokenhearted. Psalm 34:18. Restore my joy, Lord, and help me to see your light even in the darkest moments. Father, I surrender everything into your hands because I know that you are faithful. I trust in your timing, knowing that your ways are higher than my ways and your plans are perfect. Even when I cannot see how you are working, I believe that you are making a way for me. Lord, I declare your promises over my life. I believe that you are the same yesterday, today, and forever, and the miracles you performed in the past, you can do again. Let your glory be revealed in my life. Let my testimony be a witness to your goodness and power. I thank you in advance, Lord, for the miracle that is coming. I praise you for your love, mercy, and grace. I will wait with faith and expectation, knowing that you are a God who hears and answers prayers. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen. Thank you for watching.
Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate you all. I'm about to get ready and eat me some food, child. I've been cooking all day. I'm about to get this food and put it up in my belly. And I'm about to lay it on down. And look, y'all can do whatever y'all want to do. Maybe I'll tune in, maybe I won't. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, thank you all for coming over here and supporting me and doing whatever it is that you do. I love you all. Thank you. Good night.